we're live now. So I'm gonna go ahead and move to DynamoDB. Right now in DynamoDB, I don't have anything. I deleted all my tables. There's nothing there, right? So we're gonna go ahead and create a database. I'm gonna just close this. And in DynamoDB, the first thing I'm gonna do is create a main file. Main is the one that contains the provider, okay? I don't wanna make that mistake again. So you have to specify the provider, okay? Remember that Terraform is a third-party tool that uses different providers, right? So we're gonna say provider, right? And the provider is AWS. And once we have the provider, we're gonna say that the profile that we're using is the default, not the default, the trainer profile, which is my profile, right? And the region where the database DynamoDB table is gonna be created is in the US East one, right? That's it. That's the main file, right? That's the main file. Perfect. Now we're gonna create another file, and we're gonna say that this the table, right? Table. We're gonna get a table here. Okay. So we're gonna say this creates a table, right? A DynamoDB table, right? So we're gonna say resource, and it's very weird that VS Code is not giving me suggestions, but that's okay. DynamoDB table, that's the resource that we're creating, right? An AWS DynamoDB table. It's gonna be, the name is gonna be Dynamo table. That's the logical name or logical ID of this table, okay? So what is the name of the database, of the table, I'm sorry? The name is student, right? And this is something that is required, guys. This is required. The name of the database is required, right? And this needs to be unique within a region. So within the US East one is unique, has to be unique, right? Now, let me bring DynamoDB here. So we have this, and if we have this unselect the default settings, I have the provision is the billing mode, and that's one in the free tier. So we're gonna say here, billing mode, right? Billing mode is gonna be provision, right? That's gonna be our billing mode. Okay, so let me specify here that this is optional, right? Because by default is provision, right? But I want to make sure that this, you know, guys, that this controls how you are charged, right? For read and write throughput of the table, throughput, and how you manage capacity. Default, it defaults to provision, okay? It defaults to provision. Okay, so this is not necessary, but I put it there for you guys to see that it's very, yeah.
That brings me to your question. I'm sorry, it's not related to this what you're explaining. Can you explain to me because sometimes I'm confused between network latency and network throughput, the difference.
Okay, the network throughput has to do with the power of the network.
The power.
Okay, the power. Throughput is what it produces, the power, how the performance, right? and the latency if it has some delay or not. Right? So two different terms that somehow are related to each other, because if you have good network throughput, you have lower latency, right? So latency refers to the time it takes for things to be accomplished, right? And the throughput is the performance of the network. Sometimes it has a high speed, sometimes it has low speed, depending, right? But still, they're somehow related to each other. You understand what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. So billing mode, right, has to do with the way you charged and how you manage capacity. If you take a look at the database, right here we have, by default, the provision capacity is 5 read capacity units and 5 write capacity units. So we're going to say now read capacity, and we're going to say we're going to stay in the free tier, don't forget 5, right? That's what it says here, right? 5 here and 5. So I'm going to put the write capacity, and we're going to say 5 too. And believe me, this is optional because by default is 5, right? By default is 5. And this is optional too because by default is 5 as well, right? Right? So this is the number of read units for this table, and this is the number of write units for this table, right? So basically, guys, what we're doing is just mirroring what you see here, right? But we're sitting in Terraform. We're just doing it automatically, automated. So we just run the apply the changes in Terraform, and we create everything for us, everything that we need, right? Now we have the hash key. The hash key is, remember, basically the primary key, right? Remember that we have right here, we have the partition key, and that's what we're talking about, the hash key. And we have the sort key as well if you want to add a sort key, right? But we don't want to add the sort key, we just have the hash key. And the hash key is going to be student ID, okay? Student ID, right? And this is required, guys. This is required. You have to have a primary key, right? It forces new resource, right? It forces a new resource. So this is the attribute. Attribute to use as the hash. And that the hash is the partition key, right? So now we have the attribute component as well. Attribute component, and this is required, right? So we're going to have name of the attribute is going to be student ID as well. Student ID, right? And this is required, and that's the name of the attribute. Name of the attribute, okay? And every attribute has a type. And the type of this one is string. So we say S, right? And this is require, right? Require is the attribute type, right? Which must be a scalar type. And when I say scalar type, is S for a string, N for a number, or B for binary. Okay, right? For S string, or N number, or B for binary data. Right? Now we have that. So the table is going to be created with that attribute, and then tags. Remember, this is optional as well. It's just the map of tags to populate on the created table. So we say name, and then the name is going to be demo Dynamo DB table. And that's one tag. I'm going to have another one. By the way, this is copyright. I'm going to have another tag is environment.
You forgot the O in Dynamo.
Yeah. Dynamo. Thank you. And this one's going to be testing. Okay, so I can have several tags if I want. I have two in this case, right? So one is name demo DynamoDB table, and the other one is environment testing. Okay, so that's going to be my table, right? My table. So the hash key is going to be a string, as you can see here. That's why I have this attribute. I have to specify string. Remember, when I create a table and I select the name of the table, let's say that I want to say the name of the table student, right? And I put student here, and the table, the student ID is going to be my partition key or hash key. I have to select if it's a string, binary, or number, right? Right? That's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm saying attribute, the attribute is student ID right here, and the type is string. It's the hash key, but it's also an attribute. Remember that every time that you create an item, every item has attributes like student ID, student name, student last name, student age. Those are attributes, and the item is the entire thing, right? So remember that DynamoDB is composed by tables, items, and attributes. So a database is a collection of tables. A table in DynamoDB is a collection of items, and an item is a collection of attributes. Attributes is first name, last name, age, phone. Those are the attributes. And again, the item is the entire thing. The row, that row that we know in relational databases is the item. First row, second row, those are items. Okay. Now that we have the table, let us create an item. So I'm going to create it now here. I'm going to create item, maybe item 1, Terraform, right? Item 1. So we're going to add an item to the table student, right? Perfect. Okay, so we say resource, right? And what are we adding? An AWS, DynamoDB, table, item. So we're creating that. Okay. And then we're going to say item 1. Okay. Item 1. So the insert, okay, please, can you mute the mic? Okay, so the insertion, okay, the insertion of this item into the student table depends entirely on the table being created, right? So in other words, the table student must be created first. So if you remember, we used the depends on clause, right? The depends on clause. So we can say that this depends on the AWS table, right? And then the name of the table is what? Demo DynamoDB table. So we're going to put it here, right? So it depends on that. It means that this table has to be created first and then the item. Okay, so we are putting that constraint there, right? Now, the table name where this item is going to be inserted into is going to be, well, the table name is going to, what, let's put this here, right? And then we say dot name. Remember that before we needed the ID, we said dot ID. Right now we need the name, we say dot name, and that will get the name of the database for us, of the table for us. Okay. So right now this part is required, the one that's coming now, right? And that is the hash key. Because remember, every time that we add an item, we have to specify the key, right? So the hash key is used for the lookups, right? And identification of the item. Remember that the key identifies every single item, right? So we say hash key, and then we specify the table, and then we say dot hash key, right? That would give me the hash key of the table. So we specify first the resource, then the table name, and then we specify what attribute or what component we're bringing from that table, right? So now we have the hash key. This is the time to create an item, okay? So we say, and this part is required. This part is required, and this is JSON representation. Remember that the DynamoDB uses JSON, right? Representation of a map of attributes. Name and value pair, right? There's one for each attribute, right? So this is what we're gonna do now. It's gonna look a little weird, but that's the way it is. So we say item, that's what we created, right? Item, say equals, and we say this item, right? We open curly braces, we close, and then here we say item, right? So we start with item, finish with item, okay? Basically, I can say anything I want here, right? Right? It's the same thing, but you know, standard we say item because what we are creating is an item, right? So this is very typical when you use JSON in Terraform, okay? So first thing we're gonna do, well, our student ID is the key, right? So we say that the key is what? The key is going to be a string, right? And it's going to be 001. Okay, so that's our first part of an item. It's going to be the key, right? Now we say the second one is student grade, right? Right, and student's grade is going to be a number, and it's going to be 98, right? 98. We have a student first name. Remember, this is a key value pair all the time. Key, and this entire thing is the value. But inside the value, we have the type of the attribute and the value of the attribute. Okay? That's what we have here. Same thing here, type, value. So we specify this is the key, right? This is the name, and this is the value. But we have to specify the type of the value, right? Student first name, right? Student first name, right? Is going to be a string, and it's going to be Carlos, right? And then we say student last name, right? It's going to be string, and we say Garcia, right? And last but not least, student phone. Right? String, and it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Okay, that's it. That's the first item, as you can see, right? That is our first item, right? Now, when we create a second item, it's going to be exactly the same as this one. We don't need to change the values. That's it. As simple as that. And I think that this is going to be faster than the RDS instance. So I'm going to copy this, right? I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to create another file, and I'm going to name it item 2. Right? Paste. Just change a few words. And then I'm going to say item 2, right? It depends on the table. Name is the same. Name of the table is the same. Hash key the same. And here we just say 2. Just tweak a little bit. 5. And then we say Fernando. And we say here Acosta. And maybe we say 0987654321. So that's the phone number. And that's it, guys. We're done with this table. As simple as that. That's it. Okay. Okay. So, Nathan, are you following?
Yep, I'm at the same spot.
Okay, so you created everything?
Yeah, I just need to put the
Yeah.
stuff in main.
Yeah. 9, now we have to maybe close this and
Can you
open this one. Okay, go ahead.
go to main for a second?
Yeah.
Or just paste whatever is in main. Oh, it's the same thing as the other one.
Yeah.
The RDS main.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good.
So now I open this folder, so we just go ahead and say Terraform in it, and we initialize that. Okay. Now that it's initialized, we go ahead and say Terraform, apply. And we have a format. Okay. Did I put an F? Where's that F? Looking for beginning of value. F, invalid character F. Did I put an F somewhere there?
Fernando doesn't have a quote in front of it.
Oh, right. Good, very good. Good catch, very good. So Plot. So yes. And then it creates, it's super fast. Reading in DynamoDB is much faster than creating an RDS instance. Okay. So there you go. The table, it's already there, right? And if you take a look at the items, we have 2 items. We have student ID, Carlos, 001, first name, Carlos, right? Okay. So we have that, right? Perfect. It worked. So we created a database from Terraform, as you can see here. Okay. And it's very fast compared to RDS. RDS takes a long time to be created, right? So now that we have our table, right, we can go ahead and use lambda function to retrieve the values. We can add more items. We can remove items. We can check the metrics of the table. We already have write capacity 5, right? And then we have read capacity 5 as well. We can see the capacity here. That's what we selected, right? We can see we can create a global table if you want. What else? That's it. We can see some overview about the table, the capacity units for read and write, creation time, the billing mode provision, what we selected. This is the partition key, student ID to string, and the table name student, right? That's it. That's how you create a database or a table in DynamoDB. Now we have to do is go ahead and roll back, just bring everything to what it was before. So we Terraform destroy. That's going to ask us for approval. We say yes. And then it will delete the table for me. It's going to be a very quick process. As you can see, the table is deleted immediately. 3 resources